Welcome to another Tuesday night. This is Future Stars Now. My name is Mike Freland. I am joined by my follically challenged friend,
the Ritt.
Yes.
Again,
yes. We got a great show for you guys tonight. We have Encore, who's going to be here in the 8 o'clock hour. Then we have a great guest in the 9 o'clock hour. So much to talk about here. But, man, we're really excited about tonight's guest because, you ever go to a concert and the band goes and plays, and then all of a sudden people want you to come. They want them to come back out, right?
Yeah. Just like we want him to come back out the second time. So looks like this whole charade.
Charade? Where do you live? Charade. Oh my God, charade. What is that? A car from the 70s? Jeez, oh, Pete.
Hey.
Yeah.
We definitely want this man to come back out because he was already out here once, and yeah, we had technical difficulties, folks.
Yeah, it's all right. It happens. But look, let's go ahead and let's bring him out right now. This is Encore. And this is your Encore.
What's up, guys?
It is so good to see you.
Again.
Yeah. Again, there we go. See? That's why I got to get an Encore presentation of the broadcast,
So joining us this evening is Encore, a great rising star in the indie scene right now, and he can be seen at PPW. They recently had their big event called Aerial Assault. Encore, let me just kind of ask you right now, I mean, it was a huge show. So what was your take on the whole show and how everything felt with the crowd and the responses you guys got?
Well, the show itself was just packed with a great amount of matches, and just being in the tournament semifinals of their vacant world title was just a huge, big factor for me. The atmosphere was great. Crowd, the fans giving a lot of energy, and that's what I'm about. Just energy, high entertainment. It was just amazing. And it's just exciting to say that it's only the beginning, So, and that's where I met Ritt here. So I can see that a lot of big opportunities are going to happen there at PPW.
Not only just their Encore, man. Have you watched your matches? Because I've watched them. I've watched them, and Freland, I went and told him when we were having a little, quick little talk, and I'm like, man, I said we've got to get you on this podcast because a year from now, I might not be able to talk to you because you might be signed somewhere because you're not going to last very long on.
I'm going 6 months, a year right now. No. And I think that's the big thing, all joking aside, is because we are in such a unique phase of wrestling right now. When companies see somebody who's got the it factor, they're gonna get them really quickly. And I think you are one of those individuals. I mean, I'm not trying to blow smoke or anything like that, but I think that people can understand that when somebody loves something as much as you do and how talented you are, that your future is going to be rising very, very quickly, and a lot of decisions are going to have to be made very, very soon.
Yeah. So thinking and hearing that a lot is really what gets me going and really keeps the motivation. And honestly, I'm not even taking it as blowing up smoke. It's just me like staying ready for the opportunity because I've seen it happen with my closest, like trainees come from the same school. Like I've seen Private Party get signed, I've seen Main Event get on their opportunity of AEW Dark. So seeing how quickly those opportunities do come, I just know that I just have to stay ready for anything and just keep it going. And the idea is staying ready.
Yeah, exactly. And, it all stems from, a great trainer. Yes. You're trained by Amazing Red.
Yes.
Well, tell everybody what that's like. Arguably one of the greatest high flyers of all time. The man creates moves on the fly,
Well, I can tell you off the jump, it's not easy. It's not easy training with him because, it's the way that you have to, like, not even fill those shoes, but just owning up to that name that you're trained by him. It really goes a long way, just his in-ring style, it's just the way he carries himself. It's a real big deal, and having that responsibility or having that title of being trained under a guy like Amazing Red, who I adore, who I still to this day ask him everything that I could possibly do to how to get an ounce better, So it's a big shout outs to him. He's really the reason for creating like Encore, thinking of in depth of how I want to wrestle or how I want to be perceived, movement wise in the ring flow. Like I found my style and myself because of Amazing Red, mixing in my personality and his in ring style with my athletic background. It just creates something that, on a big thanks to him again,
Speaking of Amazing Red and being athletic and you having your athletic background and whatnot, what are some things that you did from an athletic standpoint prior to pro wrestling? Because we found out that a lot of guys who get into pro wrestling were very active in other areas in their youth and their young adult life before they got into wrestling. So kind of take us back. What are some things that you did that you feel like translates well as far as conditioning and as far as strength and whatnot with what you do in the ring?
So I've done pee-wee football with a youth 7-year-old football. Transitioned that into high school track and field, and just like 2 years now, it's like I'm been into bodybuilding. So the strength, weight training, and also track and field is what helped my endurance and my agility. Some would say would come from the football aspect. So I kind of hit different angles of athlete as far as agility, strength, speed. So I do have that type of like background that I can always relate to when transitioning that into the ring, which would probably be a reason why I was able to pick up, his style a lot quickly, because I found a way to transition it from the background, So that really helped a lot.
So when it comes to obviously getting into pro wrestling, it's usually something that we've heard from people in the past, not necessarily everybody, but it's something that they watched when they were growing up, or either their dad, or they would watch it with grandparents or brother, sister, or whomever. Was there anybody that you actually watched it with, or who introduced you to it, or was this something that you kind of picked up a little bit later on?
So it was introduced to me by my bigger brother. This was back, I had to have been about maybe 5 years old, and he was just watching it. And I remember going into the room to bother him of something. And then I just looked at the TV, and then I would not forget this. The first person that I saw was Triple H. He had this feud with Kane. And I just seen this big muscular dude just walking around, just beating people up. And I'm like, wow, what is this? And then he started telling me that this is wrestling, and this, that, and the third. And then weeks after weeks, I would just walk in the same day, Thursdays. It was when it was Thursday Night SmackDown. I remember that.
Yep.
And it was Thursday Night SmackDown, and we would just go in his room and we'd just watch it. And growing up, I just found my like person that I just love to watch, and that happened to be The Rock. Just watching The Rock, and then Triple H. It was just a whole demographic, and then it's just like got a part of me. Started buying the toys, started getting the video games, and it really just became a huge part of growing up, and it's because of him. My family wasn't really into it. It was really just my brother and me just watching wrestling. They actually hated it.
Do you still find yourself watching wrestling today?
Yes. So I was just watching SummerSlam last night, always. So I'm still watching the product. Not as much as I was when I was growing up, but it's only because I'm like still, taking the time to like train, focus, just get there. I will still, see what's going on. I'll pick up on the replays. I won't be able to watch it live, but I will watch it on the replays and the reprogram and the highlights, because at the end of the day, I'm still focused to get to that level.
I've got to ask Encore, what was your thoughts if you've seen AEW Rampage, CM Punk coming back after 7 years? What were your thoughts on the song, seeing him come out, the promo?
So that entire first of all, that had to have been the loudest I've ever heard a crowd in a long time. probably back when The Rock had came back the first time, but it was loud. And one thing that I love is the crowd. The crowd for me is what makes this business. And when I heard them, and continuously from start of the music to the drop of the microphone when he left, that level of the crowd was just amazing. His entrance, the way that the fans still was loyal to him, they still adored him, and shows the reason why we do this. It's for them. And coming out, and I can imagine how he felt. Just thousands of people just chanting his name. And when I saw it, it was just like mind blowing to me. Like, wow, that was my I was speechless. I said, wow, and that is a star. 7 years till this day, they was chanting his name, and he finally came back out, and just still getting that same level of emotion, same level of respect, same welcome. It was just, it touched there. I felt it.
Let me ask you this, Encore. Wrestling is such a unique industry to be in because it's so multifaceted. The performance standpoint, the wrestling itself, the moves, the all of that, the physicality that goes into it. But then, as we talk about people like CM Punk, there's another side of it. It's the microphone, it's the personality, it's the connection to the audience, it's the way you carry yourself, it's the body language. Would you say, that is a completely different animal all into itself? Is, hey, I can get in there and I can wrestle? Because Jerry Lynn, for example, would say, Mike, I could get in there and wrestle because that's what I knew. But he said, I was a fairly shy guy. He goes, I just was, I was one of those guys who would say hi to people, but not really talk. But then to grab a microphone and to do these different things, it really starts to stretch you out of your comfort zone if you're a quiet guy. So what's your thoughts on how that kind of evolves? How do you somehow become comfortable with being on the mic and the personality and the persona behind a character?
I think it goes a long way, and it's what the business needs, because you need to be able to give a reason to why you need not only the loyal audience, but the new casual watchers who are just flicking the channel. And just like, for example, Ritt, your son whose first wrestling show, you got to find that reason to wanting them to come back for more. And if you're able to speak and you're able to have a charisma, a character, like a way to connect with them, then that's what separates you from a lot of the wrestlers who can. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the moves, they're great to watch, but the moves is just like a piece of it. That microphone, that image, that talking, that promoting your match, that promoting that pay-per-view, that big match you want people to see is what will make you as a whole. Like, it probably would level out the wrestling move a lot more, in my opinion. So that goes a long way. You need to have that. And that's one thing that Red did teach us is promos, character is always going to outweigh the moves,
And definitely it shows with you. As soon as that first little beat of that song hits, you're out there. The crowd was in with you 110%. Your body motion, your attitude, the interaction that you gave them. They wanted more, and unfortunately, they didn't get it. Bro Keller, came away with the victory. But that doesn't end for you there, So
there's wins and losses in this business. There's wins and losses. I know that. I'm not going to win them all. I'm definitely not going to lose them all. But it's wins and losses in this, and it's about how you're going to bounce back. What's next. Going forward. And yes, the entrance is one thing. My favorite part of wrestling, entrance. If you have a great entrance, I'm there. I'm ready to watch. I want to see what's next. So that's the vibe. That's the energy that I want to bring, especially with my personality and my style. Just more modern way of bringing it back to the business of just entrance alone. For example, last night when Edge had the Brood entrance, that entrance was just, whoa. from that alone, it's just like, oh, and we got a mask to go with this. Oh yeah, I'm invested. So entrance goes a long way, and that's something I always wanted to make like the one of the most talked about things about myself was just entrance, entertainment aspect of it, followed up with some good wrestling. That's it. You know.
When it comes to the promotion itself, PPW, I know they're doing great things. And obviously, you know, we had the guys on and they were giving us some ideas on things that they are going to be doing in the future with the promotion. And it seems like it's going to be just going just like this, right to the stars. It's got to feel good working for promotion that, you know, they support you so much and they tell you guys, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to, you know, put you guys on the map as much as we can. It's got to feel good when management gets behind you and really wants to make sure that you get highlighted and make sure a large audience gets to know who you are.
It does. And that's one thing I do love about companies like PPW, especially with them. They're always looking to see how we can be better from the last show. You know, they're always working on improvements. You know, Aerial Assault was a great show, followed by another great show, which was Let It Roll. And it was just here, and here. And that was when I first got there. That's what I noticed, that every show, it was just topping the next one, topping the next one. And that's something that I love to be a part of, and just open to working with like a company like that, of what I can just, how I can fit into this level of just improvements. And
How do you
that's just
how
great
do you
about it. I love it. You know.
how do you feel like you develop a repertoire? Meaning like, okay, this is going to be one of my moves, or I'm going to have this in my set of moves, you know, whether you have like, you know, 10 things that you like to do or whatever. How do you put together on your personal basis? Okay, this is going to be what I do. These are some signature things that people are going to know that I do. How have you come to that determination?
I like to look at the moves that, you know, how to explain it. So not really to show offy, but more of showing my athleticism, flashiness. So when you look at The Last Entertainer, it's not only the entrance, but as far as my wrestling too. I need my moves to be entertaining as well as my entrance. My wrestling has to fit who I am, you know? I'm not going to be going around and tombstoning people and chokeslam them, no. But you are going to get somebody who, you know, those little dance moves in his moves, you know? And it's hard hitting. Try to make my own way, just see what I can do and what I do well, and just really just come up with that, where I can just use my athleticism as a strength, like my jumping. You know, it's really it's really tough. I'm still developing, still adding more things to my repertoire, but more of an athletic, flashy style is where I would like to go at.
I've noticed that, you know, when I watch wrestling, kind of like what you were saying before, there's certain people that you look at and that I don't necessarily want to say emulate, but you want to take some aspects of what they do. A guy that I have had a tremendous amount of respect for because of this individual's athleticism, their showmanship, the way they carry themselves, is the Pope. It can be a high flyer, can be a heavyweight, but just that smooth delivery when he speaks and you feel the confidence, yet he has the wardrobe that says it too. It's just, and I think it's what you talked about earlier. It's that whole package. It's the way you put all of these elements together that make up the body of work that you are. Is there anybody currently in the game right now that you like to watch, or you say, you know what, I like an element of what they're doing? Anybody that comes to mind or at the top of your head?
So right now, who's currently wrestling right now,
Correct.
or just?
Well, I tell
So
you
I
what.
like Pac.
Okay.
I like Pac's his just delivery of the way he does moves, his delivery of it. Not necessarily the flips and the high flying thing. He's a different animal, but just the way he delivers his moves. When I look at other guys, you know, that was there before, love The Rock. You know, The Rock was more of a showman with the way he wrestles. Guys like Road Dogg, you know. Also, obviously, my trainer, the Amazing Red, the way his athletic, his quickness was there. So I take pieces of the guys that I would love to watch and their style, and I just try to just add in my athleticism, my flow, my style to it, and just come up with something of a little bit of everything to it. You know. Also, a guy like Cena, you know, he's just great at what he does. You know, he's just the way he connects with the crowd. So I just love that. But those guys, I take a little piece of it.
So when you were talking about Amazing Red, which I'm trying to remember, gosh, we've had so many different people on the show before, but when Red threw out this idea about the Canadian Destroyer, do you remember when we were talking about that, Ritt?
Yeah.
He just kind of threw that out. I think he was in the backseat of a car, and he just kind of started to say, hey, what are we going to do here? And like Ritt said earlier on, he has been the innovator of so many unique things, moves, and it's got to be great to work with somebody like that who has just a brain and a mind that just works on a completely different level, that like gets really into it. What was your first day like when you were with Red? Was there anything that he said right off the bat that kind of struck you?
Gotta have heart. I remember that when I first arrived, I was in a tough spot where I was the one of the newer guys there, and the other guys before me were already doing shows. You know, so me, I had to pick up a lot. So the training that they were doing were the things that I needed to be ready to do, or I had to go on the side and just kind of wait it out and do just the basic roles. But seeing the drills that the guys were doing that are already doing the shows and putting on matches, I wanted that training. I love the fact that I had to push myself to keep up. And something that I'm going through now is like I want to be able to keep up with the guys that I'm in the ring with, like the Bro Kellers, who's had years of experience, the Deshaun Prass, who I was just in the match with, there's years of experience, and I need to keep up. And that's what I feel like pushes me to really just pick up things quickly. So the first day when I was with Red and the training that he was just going through, I was like, yes, I can do it. He would ask me many times, can you do this? Are you able to do this? Yes. And all he had to do was just show me once or twice if I did mess up. And I would just be coachable and just pick it up and just be able to keep up with the guys.
Well, what would your thoughts be if a booker sit there and said, hey, Encore, hey, are you busy with such and such show? You know, I'd love to book you. And your opponent's going to be Amazing Red. Like, what would go through your head, like, from that point all the way until the curtain?
I would just, like right now, I would just be feeling like I'm in a match with my trainer. It's one of the matches that I always wanted to do as far as like my career. And just I would just, you know, keep everything, just soak everything in and just use everything that he's been teaching us, just, you know, use everything that we know as far as like working out, being conditioned, prepared for this match, and just most importantly, just staying ready, you know. And I believe that when that day does come, when I'm put up against my trainer Raising Red, I would just have to stay ready.
When it comes to, you know, you had mentioned before watching wrestling on Thursday nights with your brother. Was there any other wrestling that maybe after that you kind of went into and started to experience? Like, did you ever take a look at the old WCW stuff? Did you ever look at any of the ECW stuff? Or was that kind of like, that's okay, but I'm more focused on the WWE version of the wrestling?
It had to been that Invasion angle happened, and they talked about, you know, WCW and ECW, and I always thought to myself as a kid, I'm like, what is that? Is WCW, ECW? Then I started doing research, you know, I was so curious. I was like, wait a minute, what is this? Then I found WCW, saw Booker T, saw that Hogan was there. And I saw that a lot of the guys that were at WWE were there, and I'm
Mhm.
like, wait a minute, what is happening? Is that possible? Is that even legal? So it was WCW and then ECW, the same thing. Seeing that the Dudley Boys came from there, and I'm like, wait, there's a whole different like universe of wrestling that I've never heard of yet before. And then seeing that, and then that's what got me into finding out more what's going on besides WWE. Then came across TNA, came across New Japan, then I started expanding and seeing what was out there and really getting a touch of life and business outside of the WWE and how they work different, and it was good. It's great. So, but definitely WCW was the first company that I've came across outside of the E.
So you go from watching wrestling, then what made you get the itch? And then, what was your thought process of, okay, I want to do this, to, okay, I got to find a school?
So it was one day I was watching a program they had. It was called Battleground, where
Mhm.
they would show the work, the training of getting to that professional level. And I was just sitting and I was watching them, seeing the workouts they would go through. And I'm thinking, I can do that. That looks pretty good. I can do that. That's the basic. Started seeing the football workouts that I used to do, the track workouts. And I said, wait a minute, I can definitely do this. Wait a minute. Is that what it takes to get to the E? And then I saw, familiar faces, and it just hit a light bulb in my head, and I just wanted to say, wait a minute, I was curious, if I was to be a wrestler, what would I have to do? So I did my little research again, and saw that I needed to just find a school. And it's okay, let's look up nearest pro wrestling school in my area. Two schools came up. There was one in Long Island. I believe it was Creator Pro,
Mhm.
right? And then another one is House of Glory, which is right here in Brooklyn, New York. Did deeper research on the two trainers. So I looked up the trainer of Creator Pro. I believe that was Zack Ryder's
Mhm.
school. So I saw Zack Ryder and instantly knew, oh, it's a WWE guy. Should know what they're doing over there. At one point, I was already sold on going over there because of the name, the WWE, guy that was there. But another side of me told me, wait a minute, I'm just curious, the curiosity again. Who's the trainer here? So Amazing Red, At this time, this was the first time I've heard of Amazing Red because he was so underground, and me, I was mainstream at the time. And then Amazing Red, kid from Brooklyn, looked at his passion, Mikey Whipwreck, and then, the Mick Foley's. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a family tree going
Mhm.
on here. And then that was interesting, seeing Whipwreck, Mick Foley. And I'm like, wait a minute. Something's telling me like this is a tree that I should go under. And then that's why I looked up Amazing Red's clips, highlight clips. Because I already knew how Zack Ryder was in the ring performance wise, all right? So I looked up Amazing Red's clips. That was when I was blown away. I'm like, wait a minute, this guy is doing flips, his movements, his footing, his speed, everything that he did in the ring was just so smooth. Reminded me of the Eddie Guerrero style, but more of modern. And it was just so different. The Canadian Destroyers, the Code Reds, and the Poison Ranas. I'm like, wait a minute, this is something I've never really seen, because you don't really see that type of wrestling in WWE TV. That's what I said. With my athleticism, I'm gonna go to House of Glory, and then that's when I made my choice to go there and met Red.
I think that's an awesome point that you bring up, and it's so eloquently, made as well, is that when you're looking for a school, I love the fact that you brought up the lineage of the school, and I love the example you used of the family tree, where you can basically see what different branches, where different people kind of came into the mix, and how you're becoming part of this family now. And I think that's so awesome, because I don't know if a lot of wrestlers look at it from that perspective, but to look at the lineage of something, okay, this person's tied to this person, man. So once you get into that family, all of these avenues are open to you to say, hey, look, you are a descendant of this person. You are a descendant of this person. You guys all know each other. What do you think about this? And I think, I don't know, it's such a great way. And I love the way you put that, as far as making a determination on where you wanted to go, but not only where you wanted to go, but why as well. So I give you kudos on that, because that is, that's something that's really cool to see with a lot of young guys.
Yeah, there's definitely the reason why, So yeah, I'm just glad I made that choice. Something told me just do that research. Just my curiosity is always kicking in, and I always go by my gut feeling. My curiosity is something always good come of it.
And Freland, when I was backstage with Mikey's grandkids, as they say, I got to take a picture of them all together. Well, one wasn't there for one picture, and then the other one was there, and that one wasn't there. But they were all. It was chaos trying to get 12 people in one picture.
One room.
And I sent that to Mikey. And Encore, did I get I let you read the text message, didn't I?
I read, yeah.
Yeah. And it was something that hit home for Mikey, and that brought his day up tenfold. How, he's never met none of these kids, but they all understand, the lineage with Amazing Red, and then Mikey, and then Mick Foley. And they all respect this man. That's why, when I told you once the pre-show was over and I called you, and I'm like, this is easy peasy. Man, these guys, as soon as they know I'm affiliated with Mikey, what do we need to do?
Yeah.
And I tell Mikey this, and I'm like, Mikey, you have no idea how much respect you got from people that you've never even met.
I mean, think about this, though. I mean, conversations that we've had with Alex Reynolds, Brian Myers, Matt Cardona. I mean, all these guys come on because they've been with Mikey. And it's so interesting to know that not only did you train somebody and they became a huge success, but the fact that they then wanted to be a teacher themselves. You know what I mean? Because not everybody wants to be a teacher, but the fact that they want to continue the family name, the family history, and become a teacher at some point. I know this is so early in your career, and this is 30 years way down the road from asking, but would you ever consider, when you decide to stop, would you become a teacher as well?
I would. It's really, it goes a long way of keeping that family tree going, and also just spreading different knowledge, One thing that Red did mention to us was Mikey's teaching was different than his teaching. So he would kind of joke about it. He would say, "Oh, we would have survived Mikey's teaching because it was so tough on Red, so hard on Red, but look what it created. It created an underground king. It created a legend like Red." And I feel like using Red's teaching combined with what I know and how I would also teach, of how I would connect with, future students, who knows what would create, maybe a little Encore Red, Mikey Whipwreck Jr. kind of guy, who knows, and I just love to just pass on helping out the next generation however I can.
A question I always like to ask people is gear. Where did you get your first set of gear? How did that happen? Because I know when we talk to guys, we say, how did you get your first pair of gear? And some typical answers, just to give you a heads up, are, well, it was passed down to me, or I got somewhere and someone said they had an extra pair of boots that I could have, or whatever. But nowadays, as we know, things aren't cheap. Things are definitely more expensive than they were 20, 30 years ago. I mean, I can vouch for that. So kind of take me through the process here. What is a young guy like yourself, a young strapping young man, I'm using phrases because I'm getting older, get gear? Like, how does that process work? And is it kind of overwhelming? Like, oh, I need to piece this together and this together. And oh my God, how much is this going to cost? And so just kind of walk me through that.
So my first set of gear was these tights that I found online. I just knew that I wanted to wear something that was light, like bright colors, something that just shines in the light, that presents the Encore. So I found these tights, and it was very generic. It was one of the tights that everyone had in the indie circuit, and it was just, I would wear it for about 2, maybe 3 shows. The other guys would kind of just, make friendly jokes about it, saying, everybody's wearing your gear, get some new gear, get some new gear. And me trying to save money at the time, I was like, all right, I'll get into figuring out my gear. And then that's when I took the time to find a designer. Once I got the designer, I needed to find somebody that makes the gear to like bring it to the same style that I wanted. And that's when I met Lori from No Gimmick Gear, and she custom designed the gear that Ritt has saw me perform in Aerial Assault, and what I will be wearing for the time being. She will be the one making my gear for now, because she makes it a lot better than the one that I had before. I feel more smoothly, but I definitely had to put in some time, some research to finding somebody that can create gear. And I feel like that will be the longest process, because you're always going to be changing what you want to wear. Some days I may want to wear tights, or I may want to wear trunks, and yeah, that's how the story is. I just went online, found generic ones, and I just had to up the scale a little bit.
Well, Encore, there's a little thing I'm gonna throw out there. If there's ever a day you want to sell your first piece of gear, let me know. So that way, when you're a big star, I can be like, hey, see those trunks? Those are Encore's first pair, autographed. So,
yeah.
I'll
give you a good price. I'll give you a nice sale price.
hey, I appreciate it. The autograph will be worth more than the trunks themselves.
I appreciate that.
You had mentioned earlier guys like Bro Keller and people in the locker room, how, they've been around and you've learned a lot from them. Do any of the guys ever, or have they mentioned anything to you, like pulled you aside and said, hey, man, I really like what you're doing, or man, you really seem like you got a ton of talent right now at such an early age? Has there ever been any really neat conversations that you've walked away and went, man, that was pretty awesome?
So besides the guys that, I train with, the House of Glory students, they're always going to be the ones feeding me knowledge and information. But outside, I've got to give it to people that I was never, like, all the knowledge they've been giving me was Deshaun Pratt and also Alpha. Those 2 guys, when they pulled me to the side and told me what I was doing right, what I just need to just fix up a little bit, and what they believe that my future holds, just said a lot. That just meant a lot to me to really keep it going. It's definitely Deshaun Pratt and Alpha.
So there's so many things going on right now. Obviously we're in the world of everything is still open, fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything stays the way it is. Any other promotions that people may be able to see you pop up at, or any other areas we may be able to see Encore perform at?
All right. So we have National Championship Wrestling, NCW, at Follinsby, West Virginia, coming up this Saturday. Yeah, this week, Saturday, the 28th. Following that, we're going to be over in Connecticut for Test of Strength Wrestling. And then right after that, we're back at PPW. And I believe that's it. Also, IWA, Intense Wrestling Alliance in Nutley, New Jersey. So those are the 4 promotions right now that I'm currently working with.
Have you noticed, when it comes to working with different promotions on different shows, you kind of use maybe, I don't want to say a different version, but of yourself, but there's different things that you do maybe in front of one crowd that you notice gets over more, like this aspect of me, if I amp this up even more, they really get into it. This crowd, I amp up this aspect and they really get into it. Is there some difference when you work in front of different crowds? Maybe you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, so I've done at least 2 matches for each of those promotions so far, and I do notice that some things work where they're more into than the other moves. One crowd may be into my dancing part of the moves, the entertaining aspect. Some may be into more of the hard hitting, the delivery of the moves. Some may be into more of a different style, like lucha or hard hitting, like a strong style type. But that's things that I'm still adjusting to and finding out different move sets for different promotions, because again, I still want to connect with them. If it's working, if they love it, I'm going to bring you more. I'm going to bring you more of that. I'm going to deliver it. And that's something that I'm going to just keep on learning and just keep it going. But I do notice that.
Do you have a favorite match so far in your career that you feel like everything really clicked and gelled, where you can say, and I know a lot of wrestlers, they don't like to go back and watch their own matches. I know wrestlers are super critical themselves.
Yeah.
Even though us fans, we think it's